Stresser and CEO of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. Dr. TerMeer grew up in Dublin, Ohio, a small suburb of Columbus that apparently is famous for being the home of Wendy's, and that's about it. Initially on the path to a career in the arts, he was inspired by two key figures in his life, his mother and grandmother, whose active engagement in community and politics encouraged him to get more involved. At the age of 21, just entering his senior year of college, Dr. TerMeer learned he was HIV positive. And for the next 2 decades, he would use that diagnosis to give back, to help others living with HIV, and to advocate for strong, effective policy. Starting out as the administrative assistant to a CEO of an HIV organization, Dr. TerMeer has served in senior leadership roles at the Ohio AIDS Coalition, Southwest Center for HIV/AIDS, National Alliance of State and Territorial AIDS Directors, and Equitas Health. He's also served as a member of the National Quality Center Consumer Advisory Committee and National Center for Innovation in HIV Care. And the list keeps going. He also served on the Board of Advocates for Youth, the National Association of People with AIDS, as well as as Positive Peddlers, an HIV positive cycling group. Dr. TerMeer has improved the lives of thousands of people living with HIV or at risk of contracting the virus, and has won national recognition for his effective leadership. In 2012, the Obama White House named him one of the nation's emerging LGBTQ+ leaders, and then the next year, in 2013, the Obama White House named him part of the nation's emerging Black leadership. In 2014, Dr. TerMeer became CEO of the Cascade AIDS Project, the largest community-based provider of HIV services in Oregon and Southwest Washington, a position in which he served for more than 7 years. And during that time, he expanded the organization from a staff of 55 to more than 185, and from one office location to 7 across 2 states. He oversaw a merger with Our House of Portland and launched Prism Health to provide culturally affirming primary and mental health care to LGBTQ+ communities in the region. On January 4th, 2022, Dr. TerMeer was appointed as CEO of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. He is the first Black individual and only the second person living with HIV to lead that organization in its 42-year history. Leading the San Francisco AIDS Foundation through the COVID-19 recovery, Dr. TerMeer has advocated at every level of government for funding and policies that support people living with and at risk for HIV, LGBTQ+ people, and people who use drugs. In a moment where the future of HIV/AIDS funding is most uncertain, Dr. TerMeer has fought to prioritize getting to zero through investments in direct services, programming, and care at the local and state levels. Dr. TerMeer has also emphasized programs and services for long-term survivors and people aging with HIV, as more than 50% of those living with HIV are now over the age of 50 nationwide. Equity and inclusion in regards to race, gender, sexuality, age, and other forms of identity are a central focus to Dr. TerMeer, and he uses his own experiences and expertise to ensure that the San Francisco AIDS Foundation continues to lead with these values and approaches. Dr. TerMeer, I'm pretty sure that we do not and will not agree on each and every policy question we have to deal with together, and we will surely tussle over this or that matter going forward. But I am very grateful for your work here in San Francisco and beyond, and on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I want to offer thanks and appreciation for your service and leadership, as well as for your consistent sartorial splendor and for giving your amazing mom reasons to visit us. Thank you. Also, I want to thank Andy Stone. Hi, Andy Stone. I see you out there, for your help in organizing today's commendation and bringing everyone together to celebrate Dr. TerMeer. And with that, Dr. TerMeer, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Supervisor Mandelman. First, I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors for this honor and for taking time today to recognize Black leadership. You see, as Black people, far too often our stories and our contributions in society go untold and unrecognized. So today, I'd like to share this recognition with all of the past and present Black staff, volunteers, and board members of San Francisco AIDS Foundation, whose hard work, dedication, and passion have paved a pathway for my own arrival here today. As you mentioned, it was 2 years ago this month that I had the honor of walking through the doors of San Francisco AIDS Foundation for the first time in my new role as the Chief Executive Officer. On that day, I joined the foundation as the first Black CEO, just shortly after our first Black female board member had joined. This was really a moment in our history that was profound because it marked a moment in our journey that doubled down on our commitment to closing the gap between our stated organizational values and the actions that we were willing to take as an organization. And today I remain filled with so much emotion and unbelievable pride for the amazing team that I have the honor of leading every day at SFAF, as I attempt to approach every day of my leadership with both the weight of that responsibility and with the guiding force and support of my ancestors holding me up. Now, this month, Black History Month, it is so important to lift up the critical healthcare services of Black communities. Black communities, and in particular LGBTQ+ Black people, are disproportionately impacted by health crises, including HIV and overdose, and face overwhelming challenges, including around their housing security and homelessness, that only further exacerbate disparities within our own communities. To truly honor Black communities, we have to ensure that we continue to invest in the health of our communities. Even in the midst of difficult budget years, we cannot allow cuts to HIV funding and evidence-based overdose prevention programs and services that our communities depend on for survival. Now, I agree. I know that we won't always agree on the approach to solving the critical issues that are impacting our city. I do, however, want to believe that at the end of the day, we have the same end goal. We are each doing what we believe is in the best interest of our city and its people, and it's each of our overall hopes in the midst of multiple issues impacting our city that we are mitigating harm and we are saving lives. And we should be doing so in close communication and collaboration, working together in coordination rather than working past one another in dissonance. So in closing, it's important for me to say that as community leaders and elected officials, it is central to our mission of confronting racism and anti-Blackness to listen to the critiques raised by Black leaders and community advocates, and to respond to those critiques with visible changes in policies and multifaceted approaches that don't deepen disparities of Black and brown people. You see, as community leaders and elected officials, we have a platform that directly influences public opinion over issues of importance. Through the stories we choose to tell, the subjects we portray, the data we uplift, and the voices we represent, all of us contribute to a narrative, whether we want to or not, and whether we believe we're doing it or not. Therefore, each of us has a responsibility, not just a responsibility, but a moral obligation to make sure that our narrative and the policies we advocate for strike an appropriate balance and do not propagate systemic racism, further stigmatization, and bring harm to communities that have already been traditionally furthest from access and opportunity. These steps alone will not end systemic racism and anti-Blackness in our communities. They are, however, the steps towards change. We must never cease advocating for our people, our movement, or our vision. Thank you so much again for this tremendous honor.
Supervisor Walton.